Hey YouTube, Chris for the Handguard channel here, showing you a little unusual item that I'm doing to help a friend today. Replace the springs on the front of their Ranger, their Polaris Ranger XP UTV, Utility Terrain Vehicle. And what we've done is we've replaced the stock spring, the silver one, with a little bit heavier duty replacement spring to stiffen up the front suspension. We've already done it on the right front so we could find out what was entailed in the process, and I'm going to show you a video more or less step by step of the other side now that we know what to expect and basically what you have to do. And in just a quick description, the bottom of the shock absorber is pinched in this housing with two bolts here and here, and the spring has to be compressed at some point to get the tension off of it, and the top of the shock has one nut pulling the stud up through the frame to hold it. So we'll show you step by step how it comes apart on the other side and how to put it back together to replace your spring. Alright, we just removed the mud guard, rock guard. Hold that back up there just for a second, the way it came off from the lower strut or yoke, whatever it's called. Get it out of the way. And then I think step 2 is going to be remove the bolt connection from the steering arm, and then we're going to take out the two bolts that clamp the lower housing around the shock. That's the next thing we're going to do. 1, 2, 3. Remove the cotter pin, and then remove the nut. Pull the bolt out and release the this is taking the nut and bolt out of the steering arm connection from the lower strut, or the lower axle slash strut housing. So remove that so we can drop the steering arm away and out of the picture. Alright, there's the steering arm disconnected. Don't forget to keep track of your washers and make sure you replace them in the same order they came off, with one washer on top of this bracket and one washer below. When you replace it, make sure you put it back together the same way it came apart. All right, now we're going to take out the two bolts, one on the bottom, one on the top,
do the top of the shock
that
first.
These pinch together this housing, which allows the shock absorber to slide back out. It's all the way in as far as it can go and seated when it bottoms out, and then the pinching together of these two bolts is what holds the whole shock in the lower housing. So we're going to take two bolts out and let that slide out. The pressure of the spring is going to expand a little bit and push it down a little bit.
Okay, I thought you
Now with the two bolts removed from the lower housing, the shock slides freely in and out of that housing, but it won't slide down far enough to get completely disengaged and come out. And we need to unbolt it from the top anyway. So now, next step, remove the top bolt, and then the shock can fall down through and come. We'll be able to remove it from the lower housing.
Do you remember what size that was?
Whatever doesn't need to be shown. 2 wrenches, one to hold the shaft from turning, and a 19mm to loosen the nylon insert lock nut. Okay, now completely out. Okay, now depress the shock a little bit. Let's see, what was the deal with this? actually. In order to get the shock out at the base, what I found worked was putting all the way back up into the hole in the frame that you had it bolted to. And then you're going to be working a little bit against the spring pressure, but push the shock up in, depressing the stud. See, the shock will come completely out of the lower housing once you compress it a little bit, and you got your shock and your spring assembly out. Now that you got your shock and spring assembly out, we have to get the spring removed from the shaft of the shock. So take off the decorative plastic adapter ring so you can get to the hex nut. And it takes 2 wrenches, one on this 10 millimeter that keeps the shaft from turning, and another, I think it's something like a 17 millimeter, to unthread that nut so you can remove this metal keeper plate, and then the spring and rubber slide off the shaft.
Make that a 19.
A 19.
I was going to have you do this, so I was just going to...
Yeah, I was going to give you the camera. Here, switch over. Take that. Might be able to position it.
You're not going to stand it up?
I don't know yet. I may just do that. And then press the rubber bushing out of the spring. Got a replacement spring.
That's a heavy duty.
Heavy duty replacement spring. Put the rubber bushing back in. It's only going to fit one way, small end up. And you want to press it up in about as far as it was in the old spring, which is kind of hard to do, so it's going to take a little effort. And I just pried it up in with a screwdriver, get it back up approximately where it is, and it'll seat the rest of the way when you bolt it in place. Just get it part way through, kind of straighten it out. It'll straighten itself out the rest of the way when you tighten it. Okay. Shock back in, and it's probably not going to pull all the way up through, so you need to use the nut and the plate to pull it all the way back up through. If you want to inspect it, to make sure you pulled the shaft of the shock all the way up through the rubber grommet or bushing, pop it back off, have a quick look. You can see the shoulder that's turned on the shaft of the shock absorber should be all the way through the rubber grommet, so that the metal keeper cap rests on the shoulder of your shock absorber's shaft. Put it back together and tighten it up. Okay. Go ahead and stop it at that point. All right, now for the next part is going to be a little tricky because you have to compress the spring and hold it in compression in order to be able to put it back together in the housing on the axle. So using strap clamps that ratchet, run them down around. You don't want to get it caught around the bottom. We were able to pull it out after we ran it through. So you probably don't want to go around the bottom spring like it is here. You want to stay away from the very end spring. But here's what you're going to have to do. Notice on your shock, especially if it's an older vehicle, that you've been running through the dirt for a while. Hold it right there. There's going to be a wear mark on the shock. That's how far it was inserted into the bracket on your axle, and that's how far you have to compress this spring to get it pulled up past that point so you can reinsert the whole shock and spring assembly into the housing on your axle. Trust me, you're not going to be able to overcome the power of this spring with your hands. You're going to have to compress it with the mechanical advantage that you can get from these clamp straps. So we're going to get it rigged up, strapped in place with probably 3 strap clamps around it so it'll be stable and compressed. It's going to start pulling the spring on one side, so you have to stop and get another strap clamp on the opposite side. Use 3 or 4 strap clamps. Okay, there's a third one in there. And take up the slack on each of them gradually as you work your way around compressing the spring.
These are almost together now.
Now just go kind of opposite them. Should it balance out well enough, hopefully. Flip it over and put that side up and try to stay on the opposite side. Or snap around or the straps give way, keep your fingers out from in between the coils and away from anywhere on the ends you could get pinched. Just keep working the straps up until you get that spring compressed past the line, the wear line on the strut on the shock. We're almost there. There's the wear line right there. You can get another ½ an inch or so.
These are too close together on this side.
Doesn't have to be pretty, just effective. Right there, you see the line?
No, the line's like way over there.
Pull the shock back out. It moves. You're squishing it in.
Oh, okay.
Pull it out. There you go. Fully
all right.
extend the shock, and there you go. See, there's our wear line. We have to be able to insert this all the way up to that line, so we're just about there. Should be good.
Okay, all right.
All right.
So,
Wow, because I may high speed this anyway. So run the shock back up in. You're going to need as much clearance as you can get. So compress the shock absorber back up on its shaft, and that should give you just enough clearance. You may have to go ahead and temporarily stick it up in the hole up top to get it started down into the housing. Okay, now you have to extend that shock fully back out. Pull it back out on its spring. Pull it completely back down on its shaft until you can see the wear mark.
What if you have a new spring, or a new shock, I mean, that doesn't have a wear mark on it?
Well, yeah, if you have a new shock, then I guess you're just going to want to make sure you can feel the shock seat completely down in when you insert it. But I can see the line on the old shock, which in this case I'm going to use as a reference. Being bent is going to hinder me here now. Get it all the way down in. It's bent. I can't quite get it in.
Tap it. You know what? Would it help to put any sort of lubricant on there? Try a little lubricant. Pretty close.
Probably close enough,
I would say.
All right. So once you've got it inserted back in enough, replace the two clamping bolts. Just cut it off. All right, now we're going to replace the two bolts, bottom and top, that pinch this housing together around the bottom of the shock absorber.
I have washers on either side.
Yep, one on each side. So, have a look at this down here. You can see the spring is still compressed. It's being held by the straps. So I'm going to release the strap tension, and this spring is going to snap down into its retainer, and it's held at the top by the bolt and nut on the top of the shock absorber shaft.
And you want to move it over towards the hole when you let them off, in case?
It can only go a little ways. It's only going to go that far. Oh. It's not going to get any longer. The spring is just going to snap down.
Oh, right, because you have to pull this. You have to pull the shock back up again to get it up to the top.
I have to lift it.
Right. Okay.
So the first thing we're going to do is try and get this loose one out of the way. Some more. There we go, we're snapped out. Now all we got to do is get the straps out. Okay, you can see now that the spring is fully released, tension is back, pressing where it's supposed to be, and captured in the frame of the lower bracket and the cap on top. So I'm just going to lift it up and bolt it back into the hole in the frame. And then using two wrenches, one to hold the shaft from spinning and another to tighten the nut, tighten it up. Okay, last thing we're going to do, reattach the steering arm to the lower shock absorber housing. Don't forget to put one washer on top and one washer below. Or if your vehicle is slightly different, I would recommend paying attention as you take it apart and put it back together the same way that it came apart. Apply wrenches, rinse and repeat. Steering arm reattached. Don't forget your cotter pin. Reattach your mudguard in the reverse order that you took it off. And there you go, job done. New springs.